together clips from gore horror films, basically. And for me, they sort of work at sort of breaking down the elements of how shots, the way you film things, invest them with meaning. And for these three, it was related to horror, but in a more general sense, it's mood. And then it seemed you went to a different set of interests with the various portraits, and I'm wondering if that seems apt to you.
Well, I made that.
I mean, that one's more of an editing one that was on a movie theater, but the first two tonight, let's focus more on those two, I guess.
I mean, that does stem from a long love of horror movies, and that was my introduction to film. Really, was in my little village. There was a really sleazy video store that I used to spend a lot of time going to, and he had no problem, giving me "I spit on your grave" when I was 11 years old or something. So that really has informed that. Well, that got me excited about film, and particularly the building atmospheres, and it's got a great visceral quality that I've always loved. Horror, it's one of my favourite genres, and so that's kind of recurred throughout a lot of my work, I think. But instead of maybe trying to approach narrative in a more in a way where the human is removed from the picture, to I guess in some ways allow for the audience to put them back in. I mean, to kind of create their own narratives in a way. If that makes sense. And using sound and sort of using some of the trying to recreate some of the shots. So like with House, it's like trying to recreate all my favourite shots from old 30s horror movies, with the person removed, with the actors removed, and sort of seeing if I can still create that, that suspense. But then it becomes also about other things, like what's sort of left in those spaces after people leave. And also I was trying to see, they're also about scale as well, so both of those are made with models. So.
Yeah, I was curious about the size of the model, particularly in the first film as well.
The first one's probably about the size of this room. That's a model village.
Where is it?
In the south of England. It's a sort of typical little village that they in the 50s they built a replica, and it's to scale. It's very beautiful.
And is the model in the village that it's in the model of?
Yeah. Yeah. So they built it. It wasn't built as a sort of public what would you call it, attraction. It was actually originally built for town planning. So they said. I mean, and that's why it's really to scale. I really don't know why they would do that.
So what was the process in your discovering this model and then approaching them to film within it?
Well, I had the idea in mind. I was sort of collecting the sound first, and that's sort of the sound of mobs chasing witches and other or monsters or whatever. I don't know.
What was the Fritz Lang film in there?
Yeah. The poor paedophile.
Yeah.
So I had the idea in mind. So I sort of so I wanted to just get this. I knew I wanted images of empty streets, and then I thought it would be really great if it was a model village for some reason, and then because I'd made a lot of models in the past, and I was doing more sculptural work, and that I just saw a picture in the paper of that model village and called them up and asked them whether I could film there, and they were really happy for me to, but they said it was a bad time because they'd just taken out all the windows and the doors to repaint them and look after them over winter. So obviously I went there straight away. Yeah. And then the second one I built myself. That's like on a 1:12 scale, which is sort of standard doll's house scale, isn't it?
Are you familiar with Mark Arnold's newest film as well?
No, but somebody mentioned it the other day.
Yeah.
The one where he removes
all the people from the horror
Yeah.
film, or removes most of them because they start in the film
Yeah.
and go away. And there's an element of aesthetic interest, obviously, with
Yeah.
but the ways you pursue them have differences.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I guess I didn't. From the sounds of it, he's doing something that sounds really lovely, taking the people out. They were with mine out from the start.
Yeah, for him there's an element of the whole
Cheaper.
computer exercise. Yeah, yours is much cheaper, I think, and stuff like that. Tell us a bit more about the village then. Where did you grow up? I mean, so you have a rural upbringing.
Yeah, I've got my village is very small, and I live next to a farm. In the county of Somerset, which is a very beautiful farming county, classic rolling hills, and as you can tell, I'm quite fond of it. I spent most of my time just exploring the woods near my house, or exploring. There was a lot of abandoned houses in my village because there was a factory there once which had a fire, so the factory closed down. So all the associated houses had been vacated, so that's a great place to go and explore, and that's continued. Is it that kind of interest in those spaces where where there's a trace of human endeavour, but then I guess nature starts to reinstate itself.
Now the characters who you film, are any of them from where you are from, or have you been finding them in other places?
No, it's kind of hard. It's hard to find folk like that in the south anyway, because people have got more money now there, and it's I don't know, the way the land works is kind of different. So I go up to Scotland, so most of those portraits were, three of them were in Scotland. One was in Denmark, and one was in East Anglia in Suffolk. The last one was in Suffolk, so that's kind of more like where I'm from. And so Oleg, he lives in a small village, and so he's not actually out in the wild. But if you want to find people out in the wild, you kind of have to go to Scotland because they've got the space there, and the population is much less.
Which one's in Denmark?
Astica.
And so is Ben, Oleg's son, was he somebody you were friends with prior to then as well?
Yeah, he's a really old friend of mine. I've known him about 20 years or something. So that's why, because most of the time I make these films, these portraits, I try and spend a lot of time with them. But in that case, I had to make a film really quickly because I promised somebody a film. And it was supposed to be shown in like a couple of weeks' time, so I just asked Ben whether I could, come up for the weekend. So I was already kind of familiar with them, and I hadn't seen Oleg for years, but he, you know, you could see what kind of character he didn't mind at all me imposing.
Well, that goes to the next question of the other portrait films, and what did it take to persuade them to let you make a film of them?
Whiskey was a big help. And just, I don't know, just being sensitive and spending time before starting to film. Yeah, I think that was kind of key. You know, I'm turning up on my own, so there's not the, I don't know, it's probably less imposing than if I was turning up with a film crew. So and I, you know, I'll sort of help out on, because they've all got a zillion jobs that they're working on. You know, they've got tons of projects, so they you know, it's easy to kind of get involved and help out. So I try and do that for at least a couple of days. So they're kind of just used to having me around, and then I start getting the camera out and the sound recording, just wandering around, and yeah, they're usually fine. I mean, the family in Our Liberty, which did sound terrible. They like, as soon as I turned up, I actually went to film the guy in Origin of Species, and he was not available because he had to go to hospital. So then he kind of said, "Oh, you should go and see the Pococks. You know, just drive up this road for 10 miles and this dirt track." And so when I turned up, they were like, "Come on in, film whatever you like straight away, you know, and do whatever you want with them." It was amazing. It's completely, that's their, you know, that's part of their character. You know, it's like completely sort of free, and
Yeah, I mean, there's no irony in that film, and it's like, it's the sort of film which you could imagine being instructed by most people with some sort of ironic contrast within it. And for me, that's one thing for me about it that's so lovely.
that's good. I mean, I'm glad, because you know, for me, it's full of love. That film, you know, I think they're really amazing people, and sort of it's never my intention. I mean, it's always I think it's always a question that you have to think about if you're going to film sort of slightly eccentric people off in the middle of nowhere. Is that, you know, what, you know, I think you just have to be aware about not not sort of poking fun or something like that. I mean, that's, yes, I've got no interest in that.
Were the kids always in masks? I mean, what was the issue with masks in that family, though?
No, they weren't, because I went there, when I first went there, obviously I wasn't expecting to make a film about them, so I started to just gather footage. I could tell as soon as I got there that it needed to be, I'd been carrying around this lens for a few years, waiting for the right moment to use it, and as soon as I got there I could see that it was perfect for that sort of format. You know, it needed that space, and yeah, so I started to gather images, and then went back home and processed them, and sort of started to get a feel of what was there, and then went back again like 3 more times over the course of a year while I was filming Origin of Species. So I'd spend like 5 days with them and 5 days with S. And oh yeah, so after the first visit, I sort of knew then that I was going to cut the adults out with the picture, and it was going to be about the kids, because I felt it was a film about the future, and and I took the masks with me that time, you know, deliberately to get them more involved and to see what would happen when I put the masks on them, and they performed brilliantly.
Well, let's see now if any of you have any questions, thoughts.
Right, I do.
Please.
Now if you can hear me well from out there. One of the films mentioned in the credits, Paul Hamden. I realise it's a fairly common name, but the texture and visuals kind of reminded me of a particular person also in England who makes garments, specifically shoes, etc. Is this the same person by any chance?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, I'd made a film for him previously, no, just before This Is My Land, and
Is it the one that showed his workshop, etc.?
yeah.
Oh, so you're the author of that? I didn't know that.
Where did you see that?
I kind of know a couple of people who have apprenticed under him. So I have seen that one before. I wondered, it made me think of completely different things, but
yeah. I don't show that film so much because it seems slightly outside. It's a bit different from.
right.
But
Still, I thought a lot of the visuals, both in the other films as well, kind of echoed his work. I mean, if you see it up close, a lot of it, the organic texture of it, just reminded me of your work in sense also.
right. Yeah, well, you know, I really like his work. I mean, we're friends now, and he supplies me with shoes and clothes. I'm not wearing any, but they are nice.
Very much so, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and they do look like they've been sort of, you know, as soon as you buy them, they look like they've been worn by a tramp for 20 years.
It's not very well known, except for particular circles, and so I thought that's kind of an interesting thing also, because I mean.
But when he started making shoes, he was living up in Scotland,
Right.
in a really remote house. So he knew Jake in This Is My Land. So he introduced me to Jake, and so that's why I thank him.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you show the films to the eccentrics? Do they ever see themselves?
Yeah.
What kind of,
That's the first thing I do is to show them.
are they excited about it?
They've all been excited so far. Well, the last one was a little bit different because actually Ben was really nervous about it, and also because he's had quite a strained relationship with Oleg for most of his life, and they've just started to become closer over the last few years. So it was quite sort of emotional for him. So that was a bit different. But all the others, they really loved it. And you know, I was particularly worried about our liberty because, you know, in some ways I was taking more liberties with you know, with what I was doing with the material, and kind of pushing it in a certain kind of direction, which, you know, fictionalizes that space a lot more than perhaps the other ones do. So yeah, I was slightly concerned about how the parents would feel about that, but they said they loved it and they wanted to watch it again straight away. So that was good.
In the film, when he's building something out of wires, he's putting machines that go on the wires. Is that, what is he doing that for? Just for art, or is it for, he's trying to use it for something?
Yeah, I mean, all his kind of contraptions are functional. He's not.
He's trying to transport something?
Yeah, that's a lot of his gadgets are to sort of try and make his life easier, but actually they sort of overcomplicate. But that was what's so great about it, and you know, just wandering around his patch of land, you'd see these things and sort of not know exactly what they were attached to and what they were used for. And, so I wanted to kind of exaggerate that a little bit, that the whole place is this kind of Heath Robinson sort of thing. And some of them, you know, he made them ages ago, now they're kind of rusty, and he draws these kind of sort of plans as well for his inventions.
And another question, the white pieces in the Liberty Garden. So I thought about them in several different ways watching it, but can you comment a little bit about how those wound up needed to be there?
It was kind of instinctive. I just occasionally, while I was filming, I just opened up the camera and then closed it again. I wanted to sort of exaggerate its fragmentary nature in some way, and I don't know. I mean, I don't always know exactly why I'm doing something.
But I thought maybe it had something to do with the time that you were there. You know, I think of these adventures that you have in interacting with these people, that they're obviously very solitary people. You know, and then you're there, and you maybe go away and come back. And that whole thing, it seems to be a part of the film that we perceive a little bit.
Yeah, that's the answer.
Well, you may use
I mean,
it anytime.
I mean, I have thought, you know, I think originally I was thinking, you know, I am sort of interested in this idea of you know, kind of reminding the audience as well that this is a film, and it's material, and it's you know, light coming through the projector, and also I was quite into, well, I've been quite into the idea that each time it's shown, it requires more scratches. So it's got its own history, you know, really noticeable in those white spaces. But, yeah.
When you're planning the films, do you, or how much planning do you do in terms of what you're going to shoot, or do you sort of go out there and get the equipment and assemble it afterwards?
Yeah, so it's more like the latter. The films that I was making prior to these portraits, they were really controlled, and you know, I usually had a pretty clear idea of what I wanted. You know, and did drawings and things like that. But since I started doing these things which begin with sort of documenting a space, you know, whichever way they go, I kind of I don't want to start with any preconceptions. So it's really important that they're really made in the editing. You know, as the film progresses, you know, then I start to see what's happening, and that way that's been like much more exciting way to work for me, and has been a real you know, revelation. So yeah, you know, so the like you said, the adventure, the kind of making of it is sort of integral. You know, my own experience is really integral to making films now. You know, it's not about just trying to illustrate an idea.
So was when you talked about with Our Liberty, with the masks, for example, with the comeback, was that a kind of sort of loose conversation or growth of the relationship, as you were kind of prompting things that were happening with the masks and what they were to do?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, so I got the first footage back and you know, looked at it over a couple of months and started to get an idea of, a kind of clearer idea of what the film could be, and just had an inclination that if I introduce some kind of props, then I would encourage something which I was hoping would happen. I wasn't, but at the same time, still not being sure what would happen. But you know, it did. You know, as soon as I turned up with the masks, the youngest one does this amazing dance, and I didn't ask him to do that.
And you made them yourself?
A couple of I drew them, and a couple of girlfriends made them. But I said make them really rough. So,
And to continue on, when you edit, do you start to have a narrative in mind, or do you purposely shy away from that, or is it more montage, or do you assemble with some sort of structure?
I do sort of have some kind of structure in mind. I think, you know, that's something else that comes when you make something over a long period of time. You know, you start to get an idea of how something might sort of arc. I mean, some of them are, you know, with This Is My Land, it was really obviously like there was going to be the summer section and then the winter section, and but within that, then it becomes maybe more of a montage, and it becomes, you know, I'm editing the sound and the image at the same time, so the sound guides the way things move along as much as the image. With Origin of the Species, I had a kind of idea of a, you know, beginning, with the beginnings of time, almost, you know, with these images of the universe and bubbling, which is all stuff, just everything's from its place, but,
Yeah.
you know, it's implied. And then, you know, it kind of goes through, the seasons jump back and forth all over the place, but then ends with this. I wanted it to end with a kind of a sort of image of underlying unease, I suppose, relating to the building of machinery.
Yeah.
In the back?
I'd like to ask you about the coming of the race, which I like your films a lot. I thought that one was particularly evocative, but I'm not sure exactly of what. And it looked like, I was wondering, were these people actually doing something already that you filmed? Did you recruit this huge group of people to do this for your film?
Yeah, I did. I hired 20,000 people. That's my biggest budget.
It had a very specific reference to me of people climbing Mount Fuji, which I experienced, but it's the exact same sort of thing. But I don't know, do you want to reveal what they're actually doing?
No, not really. I mean, it's because that's not the intention of the film. It's like what you say. It is really deliberately ambiguous, and you know, I just seen a photograph of this event that from the 70s, and I checked if it was still happening, and it was, and I had a pretty clear idea about what I wanted the film to be, really. You know, I wanted it to seem kind of hellish, and but also, I mean, I liked the idea of so many people trying to reach the top of the mountain, and what that means. You know, what it means, why they would all want to reach the top of the mountain, to see what's over the other side, or and it's a really thankless kind of mountain. You know, it's just loose rock and is shrouded in mist most of the year round. It's an island. That's all I'm going to give you.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about your use of sound in A World Rather of Habit and also All Liberty? Because I noticed that with both of these films, there were moments where the sound was like almost synced up with like what Oleg was doing and what he was saying, but they weren't quite. They were very subtle like differences, and also in All Liberty, some of the sounds seemed, I mean, you could hear the water trickling, but it sounded like pre-recorded. Can you talk a little bit about that, the choice of that choice?
Yeah, I mean, the sound is definitely is as important as the image for me, and so I don't usually record sync sound. The camera is a bit too noisy, although you do hear it sometimes. But you know, so most of the time I'm going around and getting the images and going around and getting the sounds, and then sort of trying to find ways to make them interact with each other, but in a way that when you're not working with sync sound, it sort of can push what you do with each one, which can sort of maybe change the meaning of either or imply other things. But it's kind of useful to put some things together, to sort of have some syncing in order for the other stuff to work. So it's not just a sort of kind of montage, you know, just going everywhere. So I try and sort of bring it back sometimes. You know, so you know, with A World Out of Habit, I had a lot of him talking. You know, probably 2 hours of him talking, and only I think 15 minutes of film. So, you know, that just meant I could be really choosy with you know, picking out sort of the bits of talking that I really liked, and it didn't. Yeah, I was kind of really happy with the way that the talking worked while he's talking. It doesn't really, you know, it doesn't seem to bother people when it's really obviously out of sync. Yeah. So, and yeah, that would apply to Our Liberty as well. So yeah, I probably did record that bath at some point, but I don't know whether that was actually the sound of the bath on there. It might have been the river. You know, and I'm always like taking sounds from other films and seeing where they fit in. You know, just have an idea that something might fit somewhere. Some sample.
I was curious, to what degree do you think you're filming yourself? Because there's there are parallels in your subjects and your one-man filming crew, and you're going out to these rural places, and you grew up in a place like that, and so on. So I was just curious about if you have a thought on that.
I have thought about it. I try not to think about it too much though, because I think then I might become too self-conscious about it, and that might be problematic. But you know, when I finish something, I can sort of see myself in there, and I do want to be present in the films. I'm not, you know, that is kind of important to me, that it's very obviously a subjective view of somebody, and that I'm not attempting to make sort of documentaries, you know, where I'm sort of totally removed. You know, this idea that you can be removed is not something that works for me at all. I don't believe it. So yeah, I guess, and I can't remember who said it. Somebody said that all portraits are portraits of the artist.
Okay. Saying the same thing. All documentaries about the filmmaker, to some degree. Any other questions this evening for the public Well, you'll still be here, of course, for one-on-one conversation, and as they always ask, upon leaving, please don't talk inside the lobby because the sound travels down. But we'll go to the courtyard and discuss further or over drinks. But thank you all for coming, and thank you, Ben Rivers.